My name is Monica. I am 23 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that staying quiet was the same thing as being kind, that enduring pain silently was somehow noble. But the night my own family destroyed me in front of strangers taught me that silence is only useful to those who benefit from it. And everything I am about to tell you happened because I trusted the wrong people for far too long. I grew up in a small house with my father, my stepmother, and my older stepbrother. My biological mother died when I was 9, and after that, my father remarried quickly, telling everyone he needed help raising a broken child. I remember standing in a black dress at my mother's funeral holding his hand, believing he was my safe place, not knowing that would be the last day anyone truly protected me. My stepmother Linda smiled a lot in public. She volunteered at church, brought casseroles to neighbors, and spoke softly about family values. But inside our home, her voice was sharp and her eyes were cold. From the beginning, she made it clear that I was a reminder she didn't want. My stepbrother Eric was treated like gold, praised for everything, excused for everything, while I learned early that love in that house was conditional, earned only by obedience and silence. My father worked long hours, and when he was home, he was tired, distant, unwilling to see what was happening right in front of him. Whenever I tried to speak, he would sigh and say I was too sensitive, that Linda was doing her best, so I stopped talking. Years passed like that. Quiet dinners, quiet birthdays, quiet pain. When I turned 18, my father fell ill suddenly, and within a year he was gone. His death shattered me, but it also changed the power in that house. The will was simple. Everything went to Linda, with the understanding that she would take care of me until I finished college. I believed her when she hugged me at the funeral and whispered that I was still family. I shouldn't have. After my father died, the house became unbearable. Linda reminded me daily that I was a burden, that the money I cost her could have been better spent on Eric's future. I worked 2 jobs while studying, gave her most of my earnings, and still she accused me of being ungrateful. The final blow came on my 23rd birthday. Linda insisted on throwing a small family dinner. She said it was time to move on, to be grateful for what we had. I cooked, cleaned, and paid for half of it. When the guests arrived, Linda raised her glass and smiled, then looked directly at me and said she had something important to share. Her voice was sweet, but her words were poison. She told everyone that I had been stealing from her, that money had been disappearing since my father died, that she had protected me for years but couldn't stay silent anymore. The room went still. My chest tightened. I looked at Eric, at my aunts, at people who had watched me grow up, waiting for someone to defend me. No one did. Linda pulled out printed bank statements, pages I had never seen, numbers I didn't recognize, and she said she was ashamed of me, that she had tried to raise me right, but grief had turned me into a liar. I opened my mouth, but my voice wouldn't come out. My entire body felt numb. I felt like that 9-year-old girl again, standing at a grave, alone. When I finally spoke, I said it wasn't true, that I had never stolen anything. Linda laughed softly and said denial was common. Eric stood up and said he had always suspected me, that I was manipulative, that I played the victim well. Hearing him say that broke something inside me. The guests avoided my eyes. Some shook their heads. Someone whispered that it was sad. I left the house that night with nothing but my phone and a backpack. I slept on a friend's couch, crying silently so I wouldn't wake her. The next morning, I received a message from Linda telling me not to come back, that she would be filing a police report if I contacted her again. I felt humiliated, terrified, and utterly alone. But that night, while scrolling mindlessly on my phone, I found an email my father had sent me years ago that I had never opened. It was dated 3 months before he died. The subject line read, "For your future." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a message telling me he was proud of me, that he knew things in the house were hard, and that he had made arrangements to protect me in case anything happened to him. Attached was a contact name, a lawyer, and a sentence that changed everything. Linda doesn't know about this. The next morning, I called the number. My voice cracked as I explained who I was. The lawyer listened quietly and asked me to come in. When I arrived, he handed me a folder. Inside were documents proving my father had set up a trust in my name, funded years before his death, money Linda never touched, money she never knew existed, and more than that, there were detailed records of household finances, including proof that the money Linda accused me of stealing had actually been transferred into accounts under Eric's name, accounts Linda co-signed. My father had suspected something. He had been watching silently, preparing quietly. The lawyer told me that Linda's accusations were not only false, but dangerous, that what she had done publicly could be considered defamation, and that the financial evidence pointed to fraud. I didn't feel joy, I felt calm, a cold clarity settling over me. For the first time, I wasn't reacting, I was choosing. I followed the lawyer's advice. I didn't contact Linda, I didn't defend myself publicly, I let her file the police report, I let her tell her story. Weeks later, the police contacted me. I showed them everything, every document, every transfer, every signature. The investigation was quiet but thorough. One afternoon, I received a call telling me Linda and Eric were being questioned. A month later, charges were filed: fraud, false reporting, financial abuse. The same relatives who watched me destroyed suddenly started calling, apologizing, saying they always believed me. I didn't answer. The final confrontation happened in court. Linda sat across from me, no smile, no softness, just fear. When the judge read the evidence, when the truth was spoken clearly and publicly, I felt something lift off my chest. Linda was found guilty. Eric accepted a plea deal. The judge turned to me and said something I will never forget: that courage doesn't always look like speaking loudly. Sometimes it looks like surviving long enough to be heard. I walked out of that courtroom alone, but not empty. I used the trust my father left me to finish my education, to build a life that didn't require anyone's permission. Sometimes I still think about that girl who stayed quiet to keep the peace. I wish I could tell her that peace built on fear is not peace at all. Revenge didn't come from anger or shouting or humiliation. It came from truth, patience, and the quiet strength to let justice speak for me. And if you're listening to this wondering how much silence you can endure, let me tell you this: silence is not your duty, and the truth has a way of waiting until you're ready to stand tall enough to carry it.